Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the opening round of the Coleslaw Cup, and it's taking place on an absolutely stunning afternoon here in Melbourne, Australia, at the Albert Park Circuit. Now, there's been massive changes to this circuit since last year, and now this 5.3-kilometer circuit only features 14 corners. But mind you, the additions and takeaways added to this track have made it absolutely so much more enjoyable to watch and race in once again. And I tell you what, Coleslaw Cup opening round, hotspot on the call. My first soiree into the casting world here in the Coleslaw Cup. Very excited too. And I tell you what, I don't typically do other leagues outside of Midwest. I don't typically, I only really set aside my time for Midwest. But when I saw the names in this league, there was no turning it down. I mean, we have some absolute heavy hitters in this Premier Division. Absolutely ridiculous who we have, and the talent that I've seen so many times. It was absolutely impossible to turn down. I mean, look at it. We've got El Majacco, we've got Scornsy, Jinnit to Win It's here, Nicky64 here is here, A-Dub's here, Matt Rosie's here. I mean, these guys have all just cemented themselves as absolutely talented drivers, and here they are competing on the same stage. And I think we're going to have the McLaren of Chevy Freak out on track. Surprisingly, one of the drivers, I actually have no idea who they are. So that means it's one of those first impressions, probably a good thing then, as it turns out. As he makes his way onto the circuit for this short qualifying session. Remember, we are using the real-life weather forecast, so no threat of rain in the area for this weekend at the Albert Park Circuit. Look at the detail to see who's on what tire at the moment. Chevy Freak on track as he makes his way through Sector 1 into Sector 2 now. Most of the track's refurbishments have taken place in this second sector, specifically these few corners here. Instead of a tight little chicane, it's now molded into one sweeping back and forth, flat open section of the track into that little left and right flick of turns 9 and 10, formerly 10 and 11. This right here, that really tricky series of corners now. Instead of going from a medium speed area, it's now high speed area into that corner. This corner has been made a little bit tighter, this 11 and 12. At least it kind of feels like that because, in previous games and previous versions of the circuit, you had to make sure that you were kind of there. Now you got some curb to run out with, and that leaves people to be a little bit more gutsy. Well, anyways, here is Chevy Freak starting his timed lap, the first one of the session, down the pit straight here, into 8th gear, DRS open on the back. You're going to go down into at least 4th or 5th. He's cut across a little bit of curve there, kept it alive somehow. DRS open once again after he exits turn number 2. Heading down to the very tight braking zone of turn 3, down all the way into 2nd gear here. You really want to be careful and to give it a good little flick back and forth through turns 4 and then through turns 5. Just playing about on the throttle, really not that flat necessarily into turns 6 and 7 now. Much faster corner than it used to be. And now this is the completely flat open section of turns 8 and then all the way down into turns 9 and 10. There was DRS here at one point during the race weekend in real life. That DRS zone has since been removed. Down 2 gears, 2 or 3 gears through turns 9 and 10. Try not to hit too much of the curb there on exit of turn 10. They will give you a good spin through turns 11 and 12. Now remember, curb on the inside of the corner, and now also curb on the exit of the corner as well, so you can afford to run just a slight bit wide. 12's also a bit faster now. Now this is my favorite addition. Turn 13 actually feels like a nice flowing corner now, instead of just jamming your brakes down to about 15 miles an hour and then turning back in and trying to catch wheel spin on exit of the final corner and giving yourself a good little play through there. Chevy Freak goes 120 flat nearly. I don't necessarily think that's his best effort. Dace is starting a timed lap now. Next to the line looks to be an Alfa Romeo. I believe that is Matt Rose. No, it's actually Tim Rowland, and then Knuckles in behind, who I believe actually got a tow from that Alfa Romeo in front of him. A little bit of a spin. Jinnit to Win It now, going through turns 3, 4, and 5. Took that corner a little bit too wide, and unfortunately the Englishman of Jinnit to Win It is no longer participating in this session, and it looks like the Williams has also just completely ran over that piece of carbon fiber that was in the middle of the track. And I kind of saw that was going to happen with Jinnit then. He took that curb through turn 5, that kind of quick little right-handed flick that somebody's going to be going through it here in a second, the Aston Martin of Will Ans. Oh, and he spun it around there too. So both Aston Martins then having difficulties in these couple corners here. That behind him is the Alpine of Shariah, right there. Now, Jinnit took that corner a little bit wider than most people do, which then he went onto the curb on the exit, which didn't really have enough traction, and decided to spin it around. And I'm actually a little concerned where Will Ans had actually done that. That was coming out of turn 4, that bit of an unconventional place to spin it around, but luckily for him, he's actually held onto the car quite nicely. Now, KD35, he is on his outlap, making his way through the first couple sectors now. I believe we do have a Williams up to the line now. No, it could be wrong. It's actually DRS open, 12 miles an hour, extra speed with the rear wing flap open down that section of the track. Takes turn 3 a little bit wider, heavy on the curbs on the inside of 4. Takes 5. Oh, and I tell you what, he got away quite lucky then. Oh, he's going to back into the wall for good measure anyways, but I tell you what, I think he's gotten away quite lucky then, considering, oh boy, Jesus, the Will Ans, I think, kind of maybe perhaps forgot that ghosting was on, as El Majacco was right there in the middle of the circuit, but also thankfully Will Ans was on his outlap, so no harm, no foul then. But El Majacco really still has still yet to set a competitive timed lap. He's on a 1:39.7 at the moment. That's a whole 10 seconds behind the next guy, who's actually Scornsy in the Haas. Will Ans on his outlap. Now, El Majacco, I thought, really had a good start to that lap then. And then unluckily spun it around through turn 5. That's where we've seen a lot of drivers have mishaps so far today. Fresh set of tires then for the Mercedes driver. Let's see what he's got as he heads down towards turn 1, and the time starts now on his outlap. Here he goes. Down through turns 1 and 2. Oh, and he spun it round! And that's another one claimed by the Albert Park circuit. Making his way down to turn 3 is the Mercedes of KD35. Remember, his teammate of Dusty Lusky has bit the dust on exit of turn 1. He had a bit of an incident then and has retired from the session. Holding it nicely so far is KD35. Let's see what he's got. Less than 2 minutes to go now in the session, as it looks like Tweezer, he's actually gone off. That's coming out of turn 10 then. Let's see. And yep, that's the common mistake to be made. He's kind of lost the car going out of turn 10. Unfortunate for him, but common mistake to be made. KD35 now, making his way through turns 9 and 10. Yeah, I think he's now kind of given up that lap attempt. Oh, he has invalidated, hasn't he? Which is odd. I think I tell you what, the meter on which they do invalidations in this game, it's not exactly consistent, as A-Dub has gone off. That's in the pits, that. Scornsy now starting a timed lap attempt. He's got 50 seconds left in the session. Next up to the line, I believe, is the Mercedes of KD. He's going to have to start another timed lap attempt, which it looks like he's going to. He's driven past the pits. Majacco behind him. Majacco to the line. Oh, and he's barely. That's 2/100ths of a second slower than his previous attempt. Just wasn't able to give it the goods then. KD35, he's on low fuel. We'll have to expect that this is a timed lap attempt for him. Scornsy now making his way through turn 6 and 7. Purple sector 1 then from Scornsy. Let's see what the straight line speed numbers are. Over 300 now. 14, 15, 14, yeah. 318, let's call it. That's the highest I saw. Heavy over the curb on the inside at turn 10 somehow doesn't invalidate. The session has come to a close now. Daces can only manage 4th. Out of the corner now is Knuckles. Let's see what he has. Making his way to the line now. Probably will improve, barely, albeit. And yeah, he does shave off 0.4 of a second, but it's not enough to improve his position. Next up comes Scornsy, making his way out of turn 4. He's taken off so far 0.2 of a second off of whatever split time that was. To the line he goes, and he's off by only 3/100ths of a second off of Matt Rosie. But by the way, Matt Rosie, he's on a time lap. We've just had the Mercedes of KD35 gone off, and he's missing his front wing as well. Looks like Jacko is going to be the next through, who has also invalidated his time lap. Behind them, Matt Rosie, he's still on an attempt, and it looks like, well, I wouldn't expect him to keep going with this one, honestly. He's put in a really good effort, and I don't think many drivers are going to be able to top that one. Will Ans, I think, is next on the timed attempt, and no, he is not. Katie now retiring from the session. It looks like the Alfa Romeo is going to give it the last kind of college try here, rounding the final corner. He's already got pole position, but let's see if he can top his previous time. And no, he doesn't. He's down by a second, but it is Matt Rosie taking pole, but Scornsey less than 3/100ths of a second behind in the Haas. P2, A-Dub in third. It's a second row lockout then for AlphaTauri. KD35 in fifth, and Will Ans has actually crashed the car here. That's after the chicane. So we've had to restart the lobby due to the ongoing glitches that Codemasters and EA said they'd fixed, but they didn't because it's broken, because they can't make a game. And now that that momentary rant is over, there will be 5 seconds before the lights start turning on for the second start of the opening round of the Coleslaw Cup here in Melbourne, Australia. And I don't know how to complete a sentence, but the lights are turning on. We have 5 lights, and for the second time today, away they go. And it looks like off the line this time, Scornsey does get a better start, and up the outside goes A-Dub, looking to make it 3 wide in the first corner, but doesn't make it happen. And it looks like once again there's carnage back there. A McLaren has gone around, multiple drivers off track towards the back, and it looks like Tweezer now, 5 seconds a penalty for severe collision with Ray Lobo. Multiple drivers off towards the back. The McLaren, a Chevy Freak, Dusty Lusky, Knuckles, and Will Ans. Now that's the second race in a row that Dusty Lusky has had some sort of issue off the starting grid. And now it appears that the safety car is on its way out. So, momentary distress then for Matt Rosie, who this time doesn't get the advantage into the first corner. But now can take a deep breath and think of his next move as the safety car does come out. And it looks like, yeah, so everybody's started on the same tire. Everybody's chosen to remain on those hards. Jiraiya, Jenna, and Nikki all choosing to be on the hards. Still too early, I'm afraid, for a safety car pit stop here if you're on the medium tires, although that will buy you some time on those said medium tires. You'll at least, I think, 13 to 17, the first suggested pit window there, you'll probably be able to get up to about 20 now, roughly, as A-Dub coming in. I would assume is replacing a front wing. It's an unplanned stop, you can see then. Nah, we're just putting hards on. Interesting, so it looks like A-Dub has chosen to take a really early stop then. Mind you, those hards can only last about 23 laps, so at this point in time, he would still need to go about, well, it's lap 2, so that put him at 25, so he'd need to go about 4 laps over the game's suggested pit window for the hard tires. However, now that you're under safety car, I'm not saying it's not possible. Man, and I really, really thought that A-Dub was going to have it round the outside then into the first corner. That would have absolutely... oh, man, that would have been so delicious to watch. But it is KD35 up to third, Dace second, fourth, rather. I saw Dace say the number 2 at the end of his name. Dace up to fourth, Majako up to fifth. Good on him. Shariah 6th, Ray Lobo 7th, Jenna 8th, Nikki in 9th, 10th. Smith Hell, and that is your top 10 of the race so far as they wind their way through Sector 3 now of the Albert Park circuit. And I don't think we'll get the safety car in this lap. I mean, it honestly probably could have happened. You never know. I would like to see that happen. I don't necessarily think they need to wait for the rest of the field to catch up. I mean, this is what they do in real-life F1. They kind of just start the safety car when the track is clear. But considering it only just came out, they will be doing, I believe, at least one more lap. Any takers to pit road this time? No, it doesn't look like there is. And I think, again, A-Dub has made that stop just a smidge too early, unfortunately. And now race control is giving us the message that the safety car will be in this lap, and Bernd Maylander takes off in his little Aston Martin toy car that he has, driving considerably faster than the rest of the grid, as he makes his way back towards the pit lane. So this is the interesting now, where Matt Rossi got the better start in the last start of the race, the original one, not this one, the restart. Scornsey has gotten that better start. KD35, he's in third. So what does Matt Rossi do now is the question. Does he try to play it gutsy and use up the battery early? Does he try to wait and make him pay on strategy? That will be the question as the field now heads back to green. Scornsey really diving down to the inside of the circuit. Perhaps he thought that Rossi was going to follow after him in the tow, but he actually didn't. And Scornsey has accumulated himself 0.7 of a second worth of a lead. As the field snakes their way through the first corner here, it looks like Jinnit to win it might have a look here at the Williams of Ray Lobo, but nothing to be had yet. Chevy Freak looking towards the back of the Alpine of Smith Pell. I don't think he'll have any sort of move at this just yet. I think he's still a little bit too far back. However, Knuckles looks to have gone around the outside of A-Dub then. It looks like now Jinnit has gotten past Ray Lobo. Ray Lobo seems to have made somewhat of a mistake here, as now the Ferrari of Nicky 64 had a peek to the inside, didn't have the room to make it happen. Despite Ray Lobo being on the mediums here, he definitely looks to be in somewhat of a hole here. Really, he does. Nicky 64, who is this? Chevy Freak down to the inside, 3 abreast, and suddenly that got intense. It's actually not. That's Smith Pell down to the inside, and wow. So Nicky 64 looking for a move then. Oh no, Shariah has gone off. He saved the car somehow. He's gonna take the DRS sign with him. That looked nice. It was Nicky 64 trying to make a move around Ray Lobo. Smith Pell worked his way into the mix down to the inside on the sweeping left and rights. That was the DRS section, is now not, and he made a brilliant move that. And it looks like now we do have Will Ans off towards the back. Yeah, he has decided to spun it round. It looks like, for the time being, for the most part, everything has somewhat settled down here. It looks like the gap between the leaders is not getting any closer. It looks like the closest battle on track currently, Dusty Lusky. This little battle here, A-Dub trying to make his way towards Dusty Lusky. DRS not enabled yet, so I don't think he'll have the legitimate move at this yet. However, Nicky 64, does he perhaps have a move towards Knuckles here, as Will Ans unfortunately retires in the pit lane? Ooh, Nicky 64 has had quite the snap of oversteer then. Coming out of the third corner, does decide to save the car. Someone's off up ahead. Man, I'm not quite sure who that was, but Chevy Freak now has picked up 3 seconds of time penalty for multiple warnings. Did he perhaps have somewhat of a mishap happen to him, and he had to save the car? Well, he's got battery usage now, 45% battery left, looking to get chased down the gearbox of the Williams of Ray Lobo here. It doesn't look like he's got the move made. Ray Lobo does, however, get a poor exit to turn 10, and now Chevy Freak's going to want it around the left side, and I think he's actually played it quite smart here. He's let off the gas for now. He's going to switch back down to the inside. Does he have this move on his way into turn 12? And he chooses not to for now. I tell you what, Chevy Freak, despite having that 3-second time penalty, is knocking on heaven's door to try to get this position. As it looks like now, DRS has been enabled on the 6th lap of the Grand Prix. Chevy Freak, he's not going to need it. He's now going to make that move past Ray Lobo, and that was relatively easily done then. Meanwhile, this battle for the lead within 0.5 of a second now. Remember, Scornsey had about 0.7 at the end of the first lap after the safety car. So Matt Rossi is making up time somewhere, and he's not necessarily using his battery either. 71% on the battery charge, so it looks like Matt Rossi somewhere on this track is a lot more comfortable than that of Scornsey's. It looks like, oh, has Ray Lobo gone off? And he has. Oh, and he's hit the wall again. Right, I'm not too sure what's happened then to the Williams of Ray Lobo. We saw him get overtaken by Chevy Freak not too long ago, and now he's had a huge mistake, and he's lost a considerable amount of the front wing. Matt Rossi now within 0.4 of a second on Scornsey. DRS in play now for the Alfa Romeo. finding his way to the left around the Haas. This is the battle for the lead. 12 miles an hour extra speed on the back wing, and he does make the move happen. Nicely done then from Matt Rosie. However, that battle not going to be over anytime soon, as Scornsy, he's got some pace on himself too, mind you. Looking through, got an off towards the back. That is the Alfa Romeo. Tim Rowland has had a bit of an off there. You can see the gravel has collected, and he's going to try to cut off Nicky 64 there on his way into the corner. Didn't quite make that happen as Matt Rosie sets the fastest lap at 1:21.9. Nothing to be had quite yet. We got a car off towards the back. That's Tim Rowland once again. I believe has overheated the tires and has unfortunately spun himself around once more. Scornsy still within 0.4 of a second. This is a battle I could see happening for quite some time. Now, how does Matt Rosie handle this pressure? Clearly, he felt quite comfortable behind Scornsy. I'm just trying to figure out where Scornsy doesn't have this advantage that Matt Rosie apparently has. I wouldn't necessarily say it's straight line speed. Oh, it's definitely straight line speed. Matt Rosie was already about 10 kilometers an hour faster than that of Scornsy, and a lot quicker as well. 3:15. Oh, I tell you what, that's not necessarily true, because Rosie was up to about, I know Scornsy was on his battery usage there, but Scornsy was about 7 kilometers an hour faster than that of Matt Rosie, as Jinnit then picks up 3 seconds for multiple warnings then. I tell you what, I just have no idea where Matt Rosie has this advantage. Looks like Tim Rowland, has he lost it on exit to the pits? And he has. That's going down the front straight. Has he got damage, or has he just got that much heat in the tires? And I think both of those options could be quite valid. As it now looks like, Scornsy looks to want to make his move around Matt Rosie. He's just not even close, and that's the bottom line to it. He's about 0.8 of a second back. His DRS hasn't helped him that much. He's going to have another burst of it again here. Let's see what he's got. Already breaking the 300 kilometer an hour barrier. And yeah, it looks like that does help him, but only just. Oh, we do have a yellow flag off somewhere. It was momentary, whatever it was. I know Chevy Freaks just picked up another 3-second time penalty. That has put him up to 6. Not what he needs. Looking a little bit further back now, Jinnit is within 0.8 on Majako here. That is the other closest battle on the track so far. 3:10. I mean, dead even on straight line speed between these two drivers. Matt Rosie at 3:10, Scornsy hovering about at 3:11, neither of them using the battery. So I'd hate to say it, but I think Matt Rosie is just simply faster somewhere. Oh, who's going off then? And Nicky 64, who I believe, is he on exit of the pits then? Certainly seems like it. Now he's got DRS for some reason, so maybe did he just lose it to the back of Ray Lobo then? Certainly kind of seems like what's happened, as Tim Rowland's picked up 5 seconds for speeding into the pit lane. Scornsy now trying to find his way to the gearbox of Matt Rosie, but does he have enough in the tank to try to get after him here? Matt Rosie has really been pulling Scornsy, but now it looks like Scornsy's off to somewhat of an advantage here. Can he perhaps find a move to be made? I don't think he's going to make it into turn 3 here. That'd be a bit gutsy if he did. We're edging toward... Oh, good contact there to the back of the Alfa Romeo. We are edging closer towards the pit window here. Remember, the pit window for those medium tires between laps 13 to 17, at which point you'll go on to the hards. So, it really will be a battle from undercut to overcut here, as Nicky 64 has gone off, and that is on exit of turn number 10. And just like that, the second safety car of the day. This time in favor of Matt Rosie. But now, what will Matt Rosie do? Does he decide to come in early and fit the hards? Does he wait? I think this would be the perfect opportunity for that stop. And yeah, Nicky's just done it in off the curb there. That happened, that happened to, I believe, the Williams in the qualifying session as well. Very unfortunate then for the Alfa Romeo driver of Nicky 64. Is that the Ferrari? No, it is the Ferrari. Apologies for that. So, who decides to come in and who stays out? Matt Rosie, I clicked the button by accident. Matt Rosie's on his way in. Scornsy follows. KD, I'm assuming, is going to follow, which he does. Dayson as well. Majako in as well. Jinnit to win it. Kind of was hesitant about it. He's going to come in as well. He's already on hards. This will be a good opportunity for him to be on even Stevens, and he runs into the back of the Ferrari on his way into the pit lane. Yikes. Risky business then, and here comes the advantage that we kind of thought was going to happen with A-Dub. Can he beat the Alfa Romeo out of the pit lane? Does he do it? Oh my goodness, nearly crashing then as drivers were racing on exit of the pit lane. Who's going to catch up to the safety car? And it looks like, man, oh man, that was so scary then. As Matt Rossi was on his way out of the pit lane, naturally you're on the right side of the circuit coming out of the pit lane. A-Dub tried to take it around the left in order to get around him and take the lead of the Grand Prix behind the safety car, and he nearly ended up in the gravel. My oh my, that would have been something. And now, we take a momentary pause once again. And it looks like Bernd Maylander in the Aston Martin safety car will once again end his joyride and take said safety car back down pit lane. And now the question is, who can conserve their tires the best? Or is the question even conserve your tires at all? Does it perhaps just stay to, oh, let's see how far we can get, let's see, do we perhaps, oh, as Tweezers picked up 5 seconds for ignoring the yellow flags, that puts him up to 10. I just want to look at the details on tires real quick. A-Dub at a severe disadvantage here, 9-lap-old, hard compound tires. Shariah Coleslaw, he's going to fit the mediums under that, as well as Jennett to win it. Bit surprising. Green flag back in the air as Matt Rossi leads the top 5 down the straight. And it looks like, back there, it looks like Jacko. Can he find a way around Dace down into turn 1? Definitely looking for it here. Definitely ran out of room and almost ran into the back of the AlphaTauri, but I tell you what, he's right there to make the move when he wants. Tweezer getting around Chevy Freak then. Does Chevy Freak have a move back down to the inside? The Mercedes in hot pursuit as well. He's going to watch this battle unfold down in the third corner. Do they make a mistake? And at least Chevy Freak does. Contact being made wheel to wheel then for the McLaren and the Williams. It looks like for now, going back down to the inside now. Really good driving then from the McLaren. He's really fought back and taken the position once again. Nicely done then. And that's opening the door for Dusty Lusky as well. But, meanwhile, Scornsy, can he get past A-Dub? Now this has really helped Matt Rossi, as considering A-Dub 9-lap-old medium tires. Scornsy doesn't have DRS yet. It's going to be really tricky for him to get around said AlphaTauri. Meanwhile, Matt Rossi is going to be coming out to somewhat of a lead here as blue flag's in the air. I don't know whose that's for, but blue flags are out. Anyways, KD35, he's in on this as well. Yellow flag towards the back. That's the Haas of Knuckles. What's happened with him? He spun it round. Oh, what's this? Tim Rowland making his way. That kid's is how a race car is born. As it looks like here, Scornsy still trying to find his way around A-Dub. A-Dub's got a lot of pace right now, considering his tires are at an 8-lap disadvantage. That has now opened a 1.3 second gap to the leader of Matt Rossi. Exactly what he wanted. Down to the inside now looks Jacko on Dace. Dace expected Jacko to go down the inside. Jacko didn't. Dace has gone wide. Jacko almost capitalized on that move then. Just wasn't able to time it correctly. But for now, I tell you what, Jacko can get around Dace, or he doesn't have to. Dace has 8 seconds of penalty. And now, Jacko has 3. Towards the front, does Scornsy get around A-Dub here? At least 7, 8 kilometers an hour faster than the AlphaTauri goes around the right side. Oh, and thankfully, I tell you what, good driving then from A-Dub, who was smart enough to back out of that. You don't want to be going side by side through that series of corners, and I think he knew that and knew it well as he let Scornsy have that move well before. But now can KD35 make his way around the AlphaTauri? It's going to be tricky to see. Now, my question is A-Dub going to be able to make those tires last to the end? I'm not quite sure that he will, although he's been on them for 2 safety cars now. About 6 laps where he's not necessarily needed to do anything with said tires. That means, relatively, his tires are only about... what are they now? Oh, Katie's had a bit of a slip just then. The 12-lap-old tires, plus or minus 4 laps. I mean, realistically, his tires... Oh, as Dace goes down to the inside on KD35 then. Here I am trying to work out tire maths in my head. And we have a battle for position here as KD35 and Dace still battling. Contact made! And a death as the AlphaTauri goes off! No, no, no! And another safety car will be brought out here for what at the end of the day was avoidable contact between KD35 and Dace. You knew that was going to be a risky maneuver And you knew that most likely it was going to end poorly, and then it did. I can't really put any fault on either of the drivers there. Really just close racing at the end of the day. However, what has happened now is that has opened the possibilities to go back to the medium tires for a 15-lap stint. What does Matt Rossi do? 15 laps on the mediums. Does he take it? Matt Rossi chooses not to. Scornsy chooses not to. A-Dub does. Jinnett chooses not to as well. Jacko doesn't. 15 laps on the mediums. Mediums can last 13 to 17. A-Dub comes in. KD, I would expect him to come in. He's got the damage then. KD does eventually retire from the session. Tweezer comes in. A-Dub on his way out. I tell you what, he's only dropped a handful of positions here, it seems. He's going to come out P9, it looks. Not terrible from the AlphaTauri, and he's going to be having a decent little advantage here. And once again, the safety car will be making its way in this lap. Jinnett to win it, moved his way up to third somehow. Yes, you heard that right. Jinnett to win it in third, Jacko fourth. Both of those drivers do have time penalties, mind you. And it looks like a lot of drivers have actually chosen the softs now under that last round of pit stops. Mind you, Jinnett has 3 seconds of penalties. Jacko has also 3. Smith Pell is kind of in a good position right now. Should he stay caught up to these 2 drivers ahead of him, he'll have himself a podium. So now, just over 10 laps to go. Give or take a couple. Matt Rossi in the lead, Scornsy second, Jinnett to win at third, Jacko fourth, Smith Pell fifth. Chevy Freak has managed P6. And now, once again, the green flag back waving in the air here at the Albert Park Circuit in Melbourne, Australia, for the opening round of the Coleslaw Cup. Now, Jacko, I tell you what, has had a relatively quiet day so far. He's made his way up to fourth. However, man, I tell you what, it looks like the 3 ahead of him is starting to pull away, doesn't it? Jinnett to win it, maybe swerving to get some heat back in those tires. Really locks up, goes unbelievably deep into the corner. That has opened the door for the Ferrari of El Majacco, and somehow Jinnett to win it was able to shut the door once again for El Majacco, and that overtake that almost was made. Very close then. Speaking of very close, the battle for the lead, 0.5 of a second. Can Scornsy find the breakthrough that he's been looking for ever since he got overtaken the first time? Then a safety car happened. Yeah, and that's where we are now. So, Scornsy, 0.4 of a second back to Matt Rossi, and another car has gone off towards the back. That is the Alfa Romeo of Tim Rowland, who's backed it up once again. Doesn't look like any safety car needed, I will say. The new... oh, no. Why? Safety car out on track once again. I tell you what. Man, well, look at this. We might have some pit stops happening here. And, well, Jacko's coming in. Smith Pell's... I tell you what, man. The game is definitely not afraid to throw out safety cars. I have a feeling Bernd Mailander has said, you know what, I'm tired of being bored on race weekend. I want something to do. As it looks like now a lot of drivers will end up taking those soft tires that I didn't initially think we'd see. Remember, they only last about 7 to 9 laps. So maybe, just maybe, this is the breakthrough that some of these guys needed. But, once again, we'll take a momentary pause in the action. And so it looks like for the upteenth time today, the safety car will be once again on its way in. But this time is interesting because there's only 5 drivers left on the grid that haven't gone to the soft tire. That being Matt Rossi, the leader, Scornsy second, Jinnett to win at third, Dusty Lusky fourth, and Tim Rowland, who unfortunately is not really part of the equation at this point. However, this is where it gets interesting. 9 laps to go. 4 stops have been made by a couple drivers tonight. Green flag in the air once again. A-Dub and Jinnett, Dusty, battling already, and the race has barely even started. Jacko around the outside now. Look at that. Oh, goodness gracious, that got close. Jacko up to 5th, however. Nice move there. He's looking forward again. Scornsy and Matt Rossi side by side for the lead as they go into turn 3. This is Very, very close here. Jinnit to win it, looking in pursuit as well. Scornsy now with the lead of the Grand Prix. A-Dub and Dusty battling back there as well. Just when I thought Matt Rosie might have started to kind of... I don't know what to say. Jinnit now, 3 seconds of penalties. I believe that puts him, unfortunately, up to 6 seconds. Man, oh man. Smith Pell and Dusty Lusky side by side here. Smith Pell getting around the Mercedes nicely. DRS enabled in a couple laps here. So now Scornsy will have to hold this lead over Matt Rosie. So many variables have been thrown into this Grand Prix. Tim Rowland, 3 seconds of penalties for multiple warnings. He's up to 11. Smith Pell, 3 seconds of penalty for him. He's up to 3. So now positions really 3rd through 6th up for grabs, considering all those drivers have time penalties as Knuckles has gone around towards the back, almost decapitated then by the Alfa Romeo, and he's missing a front wing. Jinnit to win it is retired. He spun the car coming off a turn, what is that, turn 14. And just like that, one of the contenders for the win is out of the race. And I think finally the game has had enough of the safety cars. I sure hope so, at least. So, Matt Rosie still looking to chase down Scornsy here. Majako in pursuit as well. Remember, unless he really pulls out to an advantage after getting around these two, I don't necessarily think he's going to be getting the win with that penalty he does have. However, a podium on his home Grand Prix, I'm sure he'd enjoy that. 0.6 of a second now. Scornsy has this advantage, but only just. Majako, he's on 3 lap holds off. Big wiggle then from Rosie, nearly losing the car. However, he holds on, barely just. Don't forget, A-Dub is in on this as well, and Smith Pell also starting to creep his way in. Just when we thought we wouldn't see the soft tire in action today, it's now become such a crucial part of the Grand Prix. Majako, he might have something to do with these last couple laps. Can he find a way around Matt Rosie? He now has the fastest lap of the race, now transferred to Smith Pell. DRS enabled. Matt Rosie heavy over the curve on the inside. Jacko around the outside, and he gets the spot. A-Dub in pursuit as well. Can he find his way down to the inside of Matt Rosie? I tell you what, Matt Rosie has had such a great day until now. Very unfortunate for him, and now Scornsy, can he perhaps start to pull away from the grid? I tell you what though, the gap staying decently stagnant between 7 and 8/10. Jacko on the fresh 4-lap old soft tires. Mind you, that is about halfway through the lifespan of the soft tires. Good God almighty. Matt Rosie within 2/10 on A-Dub here. He's going to have to make somewhat of a move happen as they snake their ways through turns 9 and 10. DRS open now. Majako now outside of 1.3 seconds. And now to the inside now is Matt Rosie on A-Dub. Still side by side now. And it looks like Smith Pell. Can he find the inside of Rosie? What's happened with Matt Rosie? Has he perhaps just had a bit of a wiggle? I don't know. I don't really know what's happened. Goodness gracious, I think perhaps just all the laps under safety car, perhaps all the short little runs, maybe did it just wear down Matt Rosie mentally? Started to force him into mistakes, started to force him into uncomfortable scenarios. As it looks like now Shariah, can he find his way around Dusty? He's on a lot fresher soft tires. Scornsy now almost 2 seconds ahead of Majako then. A-Dub within 5/10 of Jacko. Matt Rosie may still get back himself a podium. However, we've got a Hask on round. Knuckles spinning himself right round like a record. Oh, the analogies go on for days. And look at this here. Matt Rosie really is the fastest car out of these three by a whole 8 kilometers an hour going down that section of the track. DRS open now for the Alpha, getting around the AlphaTauri. Perhaps for now, whoa, Smith Pell has really had to take the escape road there, almost going clean into the back of the AlphaTauri. Oh, and the other Alpine's gone around. Both Alpines, Smith Pell and Shiraya, finding themselves in that gravel trap. As well as, who was that? That was the Alfa Romeo then of Tim Rowland. Matt Rossi, can he find his way around Jacko? Yellow flags again. The Alpine of Shiraya, it seems off towards the back. I think that's who it is at least. DRS open for Matt Rossi. Down to the inside on Jacko. This is really where the softs have started to die. Jacko, however, still to the inside. Clean overtake there for Matt Rossi. A-dub to the gearbox of Jacko. 3 unbelievably quick drivers, all in hot pursuit of themselves. And look at this, the gap from Matt Rossi to Scornsy is now closing. Or so I thought it was. It's getting slightly larger now. That kind of looks like porpoising there on the back of the Ferrari. To the inside now looks A-dub. Don't tell me they're going to go side by side through this series of corners, and thankfully life was chosen then. Or perhaps was it, as A-dub hits the gearbox of Jacko and has now lost significant ground. Man, oh man, that was uncomfortable scenario there. However, he's somehow kept it within a second, and will have DRS, perhaps. Yellow flag somewhere. It looks like Knuckles has actually gone to the inside, trying to get out of the way of the leaders here. Matt Rossi has managed to shave about 0.3 of a second off to the back of Scornsy here. Not a lot of time left, only 4 laps to go. If he can make this comeback happen in 4 laps, by God, it would be the most amazing feat of motorsport, digital motorsport, I think I've ever seen. A-dub, can he find his way around Jacko? Mind you, A-dub's got... all 3 of these drivers actually have 3 seconds of penalties. A-dub clean into the back of Jacko then, and Smith Pell going around the outside, avoiding the incident, picks up 3 seconds for his trouble. That puts him at 9. So he's actually picked up about 6 seconds then. A-dub went clean into the gearbox of Jacko, spun him round. Smith Pell overtook him around the outside and picked up time penalties for some reason. I'm sure a couple of them will be taken off. Hopefully. I'd sure hope so. Only one of them was just. And that was the one he already had before that. Now, 2.1 seconds. Matt Rossi is starting to close in on Scornsy, but will he have time? That is the crucial question. I hate to think negatively. I hate doing that. But Scornsy just has to keep it clean, and he'll probably have the win of this race. 3 laps to go now. Yellow flag towards the back once again. That's Knuckles getting out of the way. So we'll check back in with them in a minute. A-dub, can he find his way around Majacko? Perhaps slightly cleaner this time, I'd hope. As Majacko, oh, and Jacko spun it round. Well, I guess cleaner isn't exactly the word to describe it, but he's gotten a free position then, has A-dub. And I tell you what, suddenly it has not become an ideal home Grand Prix for the Australian of El Majacko. .2 seconds the gap between Scornsy and Matt Rossi. 2.3 now. Someone somewhere is losing that time as Tim Rowland has DNF'd from the session. He's lost it on exit of turn number 3. Don't tell me we have a safety car now. I think it's probably just a bit too late in the game for that to happen. 2 laps to go, this time by, and Scornsy, really, I'm hoping, can keep this clean somehow. It looks like we have another incident over there. It looks like the Alpine, that Smith Pell, has gone around it and then into the pits. Dusty Lusky, I'd say, has had a relatively quiet day, has suddenly found himself on the podium. And now on the final lap of the Grand Prix, Scornsy has the lead over Matt Rosie. Oh, Chevy Freak's gone into the gravel then. Somehow kept the car straight. Looks like Smith Pell could be perhaps working on El Majacco here as they head down the pit straight. Not entirely sure that move is possibly to be made here, although he might just look for it then, the Alpine. He's looking to the back of the Ferrari. He's going to now look to the inside. DRS, not there. It's not. Around the outside now goes Smith Pell down into turn 3, and he has, albeit temporarily, overtaken that Ferrari. And now, twisting his way through the final few corners, it seems like really it was just a matter of holding on mentally throughout all the safety cars that were thrown his way. For 3 out of the 4, he was behind Matt Rosie, and then decided to overtake him on one of the restarts, and then captures himself a win. It is Scornsy taking home the win here at the Australian Grand Prix for the first round of the Coleslaw Cup, and he has really mentally and skillfully outlasted the rest of the field, and rightfully deserves the win here today. Matt Rosie gave it everything he could, but just ends up second. Dusty Lusky does find himself third, and I would say a very interesting turn of events on how he got there. A-Dub ends up 4th. Ray Lobo turns his way into 5th. Tweezer is going to end up 6th. Majacco coming around the final few corners now. His home Grand Prix, he will end up P7. Shiraya coming to the line now. It will be 8th for the Alpine. 9th for Chevy Freak. Smith Pell rounding the final few corners now. He's going to end up in 10th, but it is the Haas of Scornsy taking the win here at the Albert Park Circuit. So after it's all said and done here in Australia, it is Scornsy taking the win for that Haas team. Alfa Romeo of Matt Rosie in 2nd, Dusty in 3rd, A-Dub 4th, Ray Lobo 5th, Tweezer 6th, Majacco 7th in his home Grand Prix. 8th is Shiraya, 9th Chevy Freak, 10th Smith Pell, 11th is Knuckles, and then everyone else, Tim Rowland on back, did not finish this race. And well, I tell you what, it was definitely an interesting and exciting first round. When there wasn't safety cars, it was very exciting first round, and I tell you what, it's only gonna get better as next week this Coleslaw Cup heads to the loving track of Singapore. Guys, it's been very, very exciting. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.